take on the pioneer listing of the NIDF? How significant is it to financing infrastructure in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak about this. This is indeed a groundbreaking event for Nigeria, and we must commend FMDQ, the Securities and Exchange Commission, Chapel Hill, Denham, and for all stakeholders that have participated in making this to happen. Prior to now, there has never been a fund of this nature, not just in Nigeria, right across Africa and indeed in the Middle East. So this is really an epochal event that we must all latch onto and support in growing quite rapidly. If you follow recent statistics, even in Nigeria itself, the Nigerian Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan envisages about 3 trillion US dollars of investment in infrastructure to bridge the gap in infrastructure in Nigeria over a period of 30 years. If we make it simple for ourselves, that's about 100 billion US dollar every year. And this, actually kicked off in 2014. And we're asking ourselves, in the first 5 years, we're expected to spend about 166.1 billion US dollars in the first 5 years, which runs up until 2018. The question is, if we then aggregate the investment in infrastructure between the public sector, the 3 tiers of government, federal, state, and local government, plus the private sector, are we inching closer to the figure over this 5-year period, so that gives us a pointer of what to see in the balance of the 25 years. So you can then imagine why a fund of this nature that can also assist us mobilize funds from retirement savings accounts to fund infrastructure, so that you can get that match of assets cycle with investment cycle. Infrastructure are long-term in nature. You're looking at transaction of over 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, and 30 years. In some cases in the US, we've seen transaction of 75 years. So you must mobilize investments into infrastructure that are also of longer-term nature, so that you can match the asset and liability profile adequately. So this is spectacular, this is novel, and we can only expect that other market players will now join the likes of Chapel Hill to launch similar funds, in a very structured manner on the platform of FMDQ, because if you look at 200 billion naira, the total funding we're talking about here, that is just, in today's environment, you are looking at maybe odd 750 million US dollars or thereabouts, and that is a child's play in terms of where we need to be. When you think about the earlier figure I mentioned, 166.1 billion US dollars investment over a 5-year horizon. So we need to see a lot more of this. We need to mobilize a lot more of long-term funding to bridge our infrastructure gap in Nigeria.
This is innovative, but the narrative in Nigeria, even coming here today on social media, is that we've had initiatives and various PPPs like this, but sanctity of contracts on part of government has always been a challenge. You have been in government and you've been involved in several projects. What should we see way forward? Because this is something that can incentivize more initiatives like this.
Well, what we are seeing is we're seeing a lot of reforms in terms of the legal and regulatory framework for public-private partnership and for infrastructure project development in Nigeria. It's a journey. We're not going to see it happen all in a day. So we're going to adopt a building block approach where people get embarked on pathfinder projects where we will learn the rope. And with that, you can go to the next project. I'll give you an example. The Lekki-Ekpe Express Road, the 49.36 kilometer inward Ekpe that was, concessioned by Lagos State some years back, and which we had to buy back because of certain challenges that confronted the project based on the rapidly changing economic fundamentals that underpinned the project initially. But the truth is that the road has been largely completed. People are enjoying it. It's first of its kind in the West Africa, where you have a 24/7 security and support or rescue patrol on that road. You have ambulance service on that road, and it's been a different trajectory even for the corridor since that road was constructed. You will see property value that has gone northbound since that. So, and you have seen a lot of other infrastructure projects come on the corridor. At the minimum, at the last count, you have almost 10 retail and shopping malls that have developed on that corridor, and more are still coming. And you see a lot of the middle class people moving into that corridor, new housing estate coming up. So it's quite significant that it's a baby step and people will learn. On the back of that, when the Lekki-Ikoyi Link Bridge toll was launched, that was with less issues because we've gained significant experience from the first experience we had. So over time, we are going to see more infrastructure projects, building momentum in Nigeria. Power projects have been structured in Lagos State alone. In the last regime, we delivered 5 independent power projects, delivering almost 50 megawatts of power in different clusters in the state. So things are happening, and as we see more in other states also coming on stream, we'll begin to gain experience and gain on that learning curve, and things begin to take shape. So government too, responding by ensuring that they now get the right quality of advisors to help them in structuring projects, whether they are financial advisors, technical advisors, or counsel advising on the project, both local and offshore. And that brings in a lot of expertise, into successful delivery of public-private partnership projects in Nigeria.
Finally, how can the current ERGP, is looking at financing infrastructure and subnational, that states, key into NIDF and other initiatives like this?
Well, clearly, a lot of states have been raising revenue bonds over the years. I mean, Lagos State will lead the pack, with the last 275 billion issuance program, and then the newly launched 500 billion issuance program by the new administration in Lagos State. So these are all opportunities where they can now latch on a direct infrastructure fund of this nature to fund other sectorial infrastructure requirements. So, I mean, we talked here earlier on about health sector, education, security and other social services that are required as the building block before you get into the hard infrastructure of intermodal transportation, whether it is light metro, transit, BRT systems, taxi schemes, ferry services, and the rest of them. So we are beginning to see opportunity for funds of this nature to directly fund such transactions. So subnationals can tap into this by preparing bankable projects that can be funded through Nigeria Infrastructure Debt Fund.